Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wellbeing Makes Sense. What you're about to watch is a special presentation on mental health that my wife delivered at Mid Hudson SDA Church. A lot of people, families, communities, including churches, are suffering because of anxiety, depression, bipolar, and suicide. Let's make it our fight to help those who are suffering. I am pretty sure that you're gonna learn a lot from this presentation. So please like, share, subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Church. Happy Sabbath. I am glad that I am in the house of the Lord. Amen. I'm glad I'm able to tell you that I am actually happy to be here today. I'm just gonna put my notes in order. Bear with me. Alright, so as you know, this weekend is the weekend of health, and our focus is mental health. I believe yesterday we had a testimony. We didn't have anything yesterday, unfortunately. That's okay. Today we're starting we'll start with the sermon, and I bring greetings from Serge Destin, my husband, the director of the department. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to be here, but he does send everybody greetings. And right now, he is doing participating in another conference in the city. So he prays for you. And he wishes everybody God's blessing. As everybody knows, I am not a speaker, but it is an honor and a privilege that I'm on this side attempting, by God's grace, to bring you what He has for you. I'm not a speaker by trade. You will find out that the hard way. Okay? The pastor Facebook messaged me saying that he was happy that I'm speaking, and the next thing I said was thank you. But for 26 years as I've been in this church, a lot of you will agree with me, and I would also agree with you that speaking is not my strong suit. So I asked him to pray for me, and if you find it in your heart, please pray for me too. Amen. The hardest part in school, especially in English class, when the teacher says to write an essay, the hardest part for me, and I'm assuming majority of you guys, is always how do I start the essay and how do I finish the essay. And guess what? I am having the same problem. I was like, how do I start a sermon and how do I end it? So that's why I need your prayer for. Can we put up the slideshow? It was supposed to be the first page. It was supposed to be a PowerPoint, but conversion problems, so I had to put it in a PDF file. So if you can do all the way to the top. That's the last one. almost there. So, so the title, everybody, almost every sermon I see people have titles, so I guess I have to do a title. So the title is God in Depression. Today we're going to focus on mental illness, most common is depression, and obviously as we are a child of God, we have to add God into it. It's only natural, right? So most of us feel sad, lonely, and depressed. At times, it's natural, but it's really a normal reaction to life's changes, struggles, you know, injured self-esteem, your ego's being hurt. You know, you're gonna feel the sadness, the loneliness, and the depression. But when these things become overwhelming and it knocks out the ability for you to cope, to the point that it causes physical symptoms and lasts a longer period of time, which I'll discuss what that time frame is, they can keep you from leaving a normal life, right? And it can keep you from leaving an active life. That's when it's time to seek medical help. Let me read you a couple of things here. Robin Williams' friend stated, he was always happy, everyone adored him. Kate Spade, unfortunately I did not know who she was. I was at work and one of my residents said, oh my gosh, Kate Spade died. And I quickly Googled who she was. And a lot of people know she's in the fashion world, very well known for purses and clothes, etc. And unfortunately, a few weeks ago, she killed herself. And this is what her dad said about her. I just talked to her an hour before, and she was planning a trip. She was just like her brand, happy, cheerful, and full of color. And just recently, Anthony Bourdain, a world-famous blogger, vlogger, he traveled, journalist, his best friend wrote, he loved his life and this extraordinary ability, and he had this extraordinary ability to just connect with people, but yet, he killed himself. In my line of work as a physician, I am bombarded by people with mental illness, from patients to colleagues, right? So one thing as people in the medical field, as doctors, the way we learn is we do journal clubs, we dissect journals, we go through numbers and see how to change our practice. So that's the only way for me to relate and to break things down. So let's look at some numbers. Down, please. There's no second page. Yes. You gotta go up. Gotta go up. Okay, thank you. No, one more. Let's go to the second page, please. All right, can we, somebody copy and paste our quiz. We have a little quiz. Let's start with the quiz first. Okay. So the faster we answer, the faster we go through the quiz, guess what? The faster the sermon will be finished.
Amen.
All right. All right. If you think someone is depressed, the best way to help is to try to cheer them up. True or false?
False.
Okay, all for false, raise your hand. All for true. All right. I guess true wins. Press true, please. Incorrect. All right? X that out, please. All right. The worst thing you'll ever do is if somebody is depressed to try to cheer them up. Okay? They're not there. They're not there. The best thing is to stay by next to them and listen. Okay? And accept. When you try to cheer, it feels like you're dismissing what they're feeling. Okay? Next question. Which of the following is not linked to depression? Back pain, upset stomach, kidney stone, and headache. All right. Yes. The question says, which is not linked? There's no. Let's look at this. Right. There's no fifth. There's no fifth answer. All right. So let's pick one of them.
Kidney stone.
All right. Kidney stone. Everybody for kidney stone? Kidney stone. Go ahead. Correct. Again, remember, depression causes physical symptoms, especially for older folks, the elderly. You have a nagging pain. You go to the doctor, you get Tylenol, you get Motrin, but that pain is nagging. The next thing a wise physician would say is, are you sad? Okay, next. Which of the following symptoms is more likely for a woman? I think there's 4 choices. Can you scroll? All right, so we have one too many glasses of wine, passing out the book club that you used to enjoy, dwelling on something that makes you feel guilty, which is one of the most common for women.
Dwelling on something that makes you feel guilty.
Dwelling that makes you what? Which one? The
third
guilty?
one. The third one.
Okay, everybody for the third. Let's click on the third. Let's see if you're right. Correct. All right. That's next. 4. When life is rough, that's when depression kicks in. True or false? False. Okay. Correct.
Yes, because you can know how to go.
Oh, no. We went too fast. Okay, so a lot of people expect, my mindset have changed. I've always questioned, like, you're breathing, you got a job, your bills are paid, but why you're depressed? Okay? Depression is a very complicated thing. So, not when everything is on the negative that you feel depressed. Happy people feel depressed. Look at Robin Williams. He made people laugh. All right? But yet, he killed himself. Next. When you recover from your symptoms, right? Your symptoms will fade within a week, will take a while to go away, won't ever change.
It'll take a while.
Take a while. Everybody with them?
Yes.
Take a while?
Yes.
All right.
No.
Good.
Second.
Take a while. Second one. That's correct. What's most likely to improve when you start getting in counseling or medication or lifestyle changes is, sleeping habits, your eating habits will be the first thing to be sort of improve, right? But unfortunately, it does take a while. All right. And sadness and depression are same or different? Different. Correct. Depression is more than the sad feelings, the blues, right? Or ups and downs. Depression is something deeper within the brain. Next. And we're almost done here. Depression affects your mood, but not the rest of your body. False. You can skip it, that's fine. But they say that majority of people who suffer from heart attacks tend to be depressed. Or sometimes vice versa. You're more likely to suffer a heart attack if you have severe depression. Okay? So the physical, the spiritual, emotional are all interrelated. And last question, when you're depressed, you should take naps to refresh yourself, exercise even if you don't want to, only work out if you have the energy for it. Exercise, if everybody agrees? All right. Yes. There's a thing. Fake it till you make it. And also exercise releases the happy hormones. All right, so it's a catch-22. So let's go back to the PDF one, please. All right. Let's go to the statistics. Nope. All right, good. So we know, if we can blow it up, mental illness hits about 44.7 million people as of 2016. Wow. This is from the National Institute of Mental Health from 1999 to 2016. They did a survey and they found that 18% of US adults suffer from depression. Blacks is the third known population who suffer from depression. So we are not immune to this. And the most common mental illness is what? What? Speak with me.
Depression, bipolar.
No. Most common is depression. Give me a couple of other mental illnesses.
Anxiety.
This side is quiet. Anxiety, schizophrenia, bipolar, PTSD. Yes. And if you can go down to the major depression. So, again, major depression, which we're going to be focusing on, says 16.2 million adults suffer from depression. That's about 6% out of 6% of all U.S. adults. And we know that the women suffer from depression more commonly than men. It's about, if we can scroll to the right. Yeah, keep going. All right. So 8% of females compared to, I believe, 4% of males suffer from depression. And the most common age group that suffer the most depression, or the highest at depression, is people between the ages of 18 and 25. How many of us are 18 and 25 here? Unfortunately, you guys will be hit the highest compared to others. And since we have younger kids between 12 and 17 years old are also are suffering from mental illness. And it says about 12% of the kids between 12 and 17 years old suffer from depression. Let's go down. Okay. And one thing that what I'll do doing this research, the mixed races, the kids who are mixed race tend to be the highest in depression compared to, a child who's just black or Caucasian. And as you can see, between 12 and 17, parents take note, females are 19% at risk of being depressed compared to the male parts, 6%. Next page. All right, so there's different kind of depressions, right? There's major depression. And major depression, we need three criteria. We need a mood to be changed, and you need loss of interest. You used to love to come to church. All of a sudden, church does not interest you anymore. You used to love math, or you used to love sports, and you no longer want to play sports with your buddies. And the third criteria is it needs to be longer than 2 weeks. If you have 2 weeks of your mood is depressed, your loses interest, a clinician, a doctor will diagnose you as major depression. Other sort of depression we have here is bipolar. It's when you're, you have two sides. You have the manic and you have the major depression. All right, the manic side is you go out gambling, you go out partying, you're drinking excessively with nonstop, you think you're invincible, etc. That's the manic side. Your speech is pressured, etc. We have the seasonal affective disorder. Anybody who knows what that is?
When the seasons change, like winter.
Exactly. You're most commonly depressed, severely depressed during the winter seasons when the days are shorter. And the typical therapy is that you can have medication or so on and so forth, but when the summer months come through, you have UV light therapy, your mood can be elevated. And one thing I want to focus on, two things. We have the PMS. Young ladies, when your hormones are doing its job, and also affecting the brain, you can become irritable, your mood is different, you're fatigued, etc. This is called the premenstrual dysmorphic disorder, also known as another side of depression. And the most things, like how can a mother carrying a child, she's happy, she's expecting this child, she fixed the room, she's having baby shower, she's buying gifts, baby comes out, and there's nothing. You cannot interact with this kid. The kid is crying. It's as if this is a total alien on your side. This is called the peripartum or postpartum depression. Again, this is depression has the physical, it's hormonal, okay? So these are the depressions. And we want to touch a very sensitive topic is suicide. 90% of people who kill themselves are found to be depressed. 90%. Pull it down, please. Suicide is one of the greatest tragedies of life. All right? From biblical examples like Saul, Judas, King Saul, right? From Judas to, who else? Give me another example. Samson. There's about 7 documented suicides in the Bible. And nowadays, it's something that is so prevalent. Suicide touches every socioeconomic, gender, color, old education. Suicide is something that is not biased. Next page. I'm just going to give you some last set of numbers here. It says as of May of 2018, 959 doctors already killed themselves this year. Does not matter your level of education, your status. And last one. Next one, please. As you can see, the second leading cause of death between the ages of 10 years old and 34 years old is people who end up killing themselves. Unfortunately, this would have looked nicer if it was smaller. If you want to go down and to the right, and you see between 55 and 64 years old, 7,000, between 7,000 to 8,000 middle-aged men and women end up killing themselves. 45 to 54 is the highest. 8,000 of our parents' ages ends up killing themselves. And between the survey between 1999 and 2016, 44,000 people recorded. These are only ones that have been recorded. All right, 44 to 45,000. Go down and to the right. Nope. I guess the other right. And down. 44 to 45,000 people already killed themselves. This is not counting the vets. This is not counting people who are homeless. This is not counting people who doesn't have an address. So this number, you can triple it. Feel free to triple it. Okay? Let us pray. God, I come to you, unrighteous, full of sin, but yet you give me this opportunity to be your vessel. Erase me, Lord, literally, that you may be increased. Remove all barriers in my heart and in your people's heart who are attending today's Sabbath here. As we dive into such a unspoken issue, the stigma that we rather push underneath the rug and not talk about it. In the same token, teach us how to love each other. Teach us how to be there for each other. Teach us how to have good intentions toward each other, with love, compassion, and patience to deal with each other. Forgive us for our sins. May the Holy Spirit enter us, transform us, and give us understanding in your holy word. Amen. Turn to me to Mark 2. Let me share a story with you real quick. Mark 2 was read in French. I'm going to read it in English now. More tables. As we look for Mark 2, I just want to remind you there is the health ministry. This is not only it. We have 2 more programs. We have another one at 4 o'clock by Dr. Morgan. She is the wife of the pastor for Trinity, who will be coming at 4 o'clock. She's a clinical licensed psychiatric doctor. So you come, not to support the ministry, but to learn. All right? The ministry does not need support. Now we need to learn. Okay, how to help one another, how to know our problems and self-reflect and find the resources that we all in this room need. And tomorrow we do have a walk at 7 o'clock. Let me see, read exactly what's the text here. Yep, we're going to walk on Mid-Hudson Bridge and pass out flyers on depression. We're meeting at the church, we're meeting at the church at 7 a.m. That would be great if you can motivate the people. Oh, that's my note. Sorry. I am motivating you. 7 p.m. 7 a.m. with your praying cap on. We will be passing. We'll be walking, 1 for our health. Okay? And 2, praying for others as we pass out flyers for depression. So I pray that we'll all be there, 7 a.m. So, let's Mark 2. Mark 2. And Jesus forgives and healed a paralytic. And again, he entered Capernaum after some days, and it was heard that he was in the house. Immediately, many gathered together so that there were no longer room to receive them, not even near the door, and he preached the word to them. Then they came to him, bringing a paralytic who was carried by 4 men, and when they could not come near him, because of the crowd, they uncovered the roof where he was. So when they had broken through, they let down the bed. Never mind. So when they had broken through, they let down the bed on which the paralytic was lying. When Jesus saw their faith, he said to the paralytic, "Son, your sins are forgiven." And some of the scribes were sitting there and reasoning in their hearts, "Why does this man speak blasphemy like this? Who can forgive sin but God alone?" But immediately, when Jesus perceived in his spirit that they reasoned thus within themselves, he said to them, "Why reason about these things in your hearts? Which is easier to say to the paralytic, 'Your sins are forgiven,' or to say, 'Arise, take your bed and walk'? But that you may know the Son of Man has power on earth to forgive sin, he said to the paralytic. I say to you, arise, take your bed, and go to your house. Immediately he rose, took up the bed, and went out into the presence of them all, so that all were amazed and glorified God, saying, we never saw anything like this. Amen? Amen. So the story goes, go back to my slide in the picture of the picture. The story goes, Jesus finished a session and he went back home, all right, to Capernaum. And then everybody heard what Jesus did. And there was this paralyzed man. Paralyzed man, he couldn't walk, he's in a stretcher, he's dependent on where he's at. And we have 4 friends, 4 men that brought him to Jesus to seek healing. Now, you can see here in 3 and 4 that they attempted to bring him to the door, but there's no room. Back in the day, people usually hang out on the roof, right? So on the side of the house, there was always a ladder or a stair. So these 4 men unable to reach Jesus, climbed up the side of the house and carried this paralytic man, broke the roof of a house which was made out of straw or clay, made a hole in somebody's house to bring, for this man, next page please, to bring this paralyzed man who most likely said, what are you doing? You know, like, I'm used to this, just let me be. You already tried to get me through the door, it didn't work. Why are you breaking the door? But these 4 men decided to sacrifice a house and lower this person down to Jesus. All of us, at one time in our lives, have been this paralyzed man. Next page. We can go. We'll get to that one. If you can center that, please. Any of us could be in that stretcher at some time, or maybe right now in our lives. We all need someone or more than someone to help us reach and get help. It's the same thing as mental illness. Mental illness has the stigma that makes you feel that you're all alone. Mental illness mutes your ability to reach out and ask for help. Mental illness mutes your ability to say, I'm not okay, to someone else. Mental illness mutes your ability to get help. But just as you would seek help with a broken leg, just as you would seek help when you're having chest pain, just as you would come to the ER for a cough you had for 24 hours, there is help and treatment for loneliness. There's help and treatment for depression. There's help and treatment for anxiety, bipolar. Most of us say, just pray about it. If my leg is broken, am I going to sit there and pray about it? If I have pain on my right side, knowing that's where my appendix is, I'm throwing up, I have fever, am I just going to sit down and pray about it? So why is it accepted that when I have a mental problem, I am sad, I'm lonely, I have suicidal thoughts, I'm not allowed to go and ask for help without a stigma? The church received a lot of questions. Can I still be a leader and suffer from depression?
Yes.
Can I experience God healing for my anxiety?
Yes.
Is it sinful to seek help for my mental illness?
No. No.
When you break your leg, there's treatment for it. I give you medication. I call the orthopedics. There's nurses there to put you on a monitor. We give you medication to put you semi to sleep. and put your foot together. And guess what? Mental illness has the ability, you have the ability to heal from that too. What you suffer from, I suffer from. If you look at 1 John 1 verse 8, it says, if we claim to be without sin, we deceive ourselves and the truth is not in us. Any one of us in this room, in these four corners, in these four walls, can suffer from mental illness, have suffered from mental illness, is suffering from mental illness. We're all sinful. When our dad and mom decided to eat the fruit and disobey God and no longer trust Him, it opened the gates for all of us. We're on the same level playing field here. You're not better than me. The elder is not better than the deacon. The pianist is not better than the person who's handled the kitchen. We're not better. And we need to know that. We need to treat ourselves as if we're not better. We're all on the same playing field. What I suffer from, you suffer from. We're all living in a sinful world, in a fallen world. Mental illness is not a sin. It's a cause of sin, but not a sin. Our body's decaying. Why are we expected for our mind not to do the same? Mental illness is a complicated. We have the physical component, we have the hormonal, right? We have the spiritual, and we have the generational. Your grandpa's issues can become your issue. Your great-grandmas are your issues of today. It's very difficult. I have to remind you guys that it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's something that you do not need suicide to solve the issue. Suicide never solved the problem. It only shifts the problem to somebody else, your loved ones. Kate's dad, Borden's friend. It only shifts. It only causes more problem and brings pain to everybody else, your church folks. It is the devil that wants you to feel isolated, fearful, and hopeless. Can you go one side up, please? One side, thank you. If you can zoom in. So, it's the devil. That voice that tells you things you need to quit. You're not worth it. Everybody will be better than when you're gone. No one loves me. That's the devil. We know that the Bible clearly tells us the devil is here to steal, destroy.
Mercy.
As you can see, signs and symptoms of depression. We have trouble sleeping, lack of energy, fatigue. We're high. We're isolated. We become pessimistic. We become indifferent. Anger. We're short-fused, irritable, indecisive, flat affect. Everybody's having fun around you, and you're there. Nothing. Hopelessness. That is the devil. Hopelessness. Suicide is not the answer. God does not want you to do that. Get this. Would God sacrifice His Son, bring Him down to earth in Satan's land for somebody that was not worthless, that was worthless?
No.
The Creator breathed into nostrils, made emotions, made you, made these chairs, but yet you were the pinnacle of His creation. Is that something that's worthless?
No.
Huh?
No.
What you suffer from does not define who you are.
Clear again. Let me clear.
I don't know how to say it correctly.
That's it.
Who wants to translate it? What you suffer from does not define who you are. 2 Corinthians 5 verse 17 says, therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. All things have passed away. Behold, all things have become new.
Amen.
Again, working the ER, I get it's a privilege to meet all walks of life. You know, that's opening up to me able to ask them certain personal questions is indeed a privilege. And I meet a lot of sick people. I meet a lot of sick people and their struggles, and I hear their struggles. And one of the struggles is alcoholism, right? And they tell me they go to AA group, and we all know they go to the AA group and they stand up and they say, hi, my name is Mike, my name is Sandra, I am an alcoholic and I've been sober for 12 years. And in my mind, I'm like, you beat it for 12 years, why are you still calling yourself an alcoholic? That's the same thing Satan does. Satan wants to tag you and identify yourself with your ugly past. If you have given it to God, you've repented, you've truly, and He's changed you, why are you yourself calling yourself your sin? Do you get it? That's not who you are. If you're an alcoholic, you're no longer an alcoholic. God has won that battle for you. You're now a child of God. It's only the devil's agent that's always whispering in your ears. Yeah, you remember when you used to do this?
Mercy.
You remember when you used to do that? That's the devil's work. You're a child of God.
Amen.
He's given the pizza, you gave the baggage, it's no longer existent. Right? God has changed you. He has given you hope. He has given you a brighter future. He has given you resources to endure to the end. There's not one sin that God cannot, that Jesus did not die for. Your burdens today are only temporary. Weeping may endure for a night, day, years, but what the promise say?
Joy will come in the morning.
Joy comes in the morning. Suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. You're no longer a victim. We need to rise above. That rape, your parents deserted you, you're an orphan. You're abused, the uncle syndrome, the physical abuse, the financial stuff that your parents, you yourself went through. They're not gonna last. There's only Satan causes hopelessness. Remember, depression mutes your ability to reach out. God will not forsake you, has not forsaken you. He wants you to reach out for Him. But guess what? I am depressed. I've lost the ability to reach out to God. And that's when we all need one another. This paralytic, he accepted his defeat. He had nowhere to go. He needed these 4 friends to open a brick house to get him to Jesus.
Amen.
We all need one another. John 13, let's turn to John 13, 34 and 35. It says here, a new commandment I give you. Love one another as I loved you, so you must love one another. By this, all men will know that you are my disciple if you love one another. I mean, how many times do you have one another in a sentence? All right? Some people I know are strong enough to help others. They can rescue someone, they can whisper life, they can pray life back to someone. But then when they get through their stuff, I'm like questioning them. I'm like, you have all this power, you have the ability to revive someone, but yet look at you. And I'm like, exactly. That person needs another. We're all complicated. Being married have showed me that I am a complicated person.
Amen. Hallelujah.
Yeah. I've come to learn that I cannot live life by myself.
Amen.
I need my husband, I need my kids, I need my best friend, I need my sister, I need my parents, I need my prayer buddies to help me navigate through life.
Amen.
Satan wants us to hide, wants us to isolate ourselves. That's what mental illness does. I cannot be a wife, a friend, a mother by myself. I need others and I need God.
Amen.
The devil wants to isolate you and me. Look at this. When Cain murdered his brother, his punishment was isolation. In the prison system, when you misbehave, if you don't get beat up by the guards, what is one thing that the prisoners fear the most? The whole
Isolation.
isolation. We are not meant to navigate this world alone. God, look at this. Adam made, he was a man. He got to name everything. He walked with God. But yet, he had God. He was talking like this to God, but yet, he felt he was missing something. God gave him another. Not to hug upon, not purely for sex, but for holiness. Am I getting through? Yeah. We need others for holiness. Holy and holiness. You get the words? There's 59 places that the Bible, God gives one another, quotation mark, one another instructions, and how to live with one another. Look at the Bible. Look at the 10 Commandments, right? 6 out of the 10 is relationship with other people. Only 4. Only 4 is with God. Salvation, I've come to learn that salvation is not personal. I need you to get me to heaven. You need me to get to heaven. Right? So, 59 places in the Bible God gives one another. Let's, if you can put it down, please. Keep going. Yep. Sorry, sir. So, accept one another. Bear one another burden. Be at peace with one another. Honor one another above yourself. Build one another up. Wash each other's feet. Have concern for one another. Encourage one another. Comfort one another. Live in harmony with one another. Confess our faults to one another. James 5:6 says this. Confess our faults to one another. Confessing to God gives forgiveness. But if you want to be healed, you need to learn how to confess to each other. It's a two-way thing. There is our relationship with God and our relationship with each other. James 5:16 says it clearly. I'm not making it up. Confess your trespasses to one another and pray for one another that you may be healed. Most of us are stuck in life because we have not confessed our sin to others. We're not healing because this issue we're not tackling. Be devoted to one another, submit to one another, be kind to one another, forgive one another. Holding grudges on somebody, we need to let it go. Just drop it. It's useless. You're losing heaven based on something you can say, I am sorry. I did this. I was wrong. I am sick. Help me. Imagine God forgave you as we forgive ourselves. We'll all be in hell. Be honest with one another. Greet one another. Love one another. Do not lie to each other.
Or about each other.
Pray for one another. Serve one another. Let us not provoke each other. Let us not envy each other. Now that we have the technology, world of technology, comparing each other is like one of the causes of mental illness. If somebody's a cook and you're not a cook, maybe you weren't meant to be a cook. Why are you depressed about it? Maybe you weren't supposed to be that. Right? Stop being critical to each other. Teach one another. Do not slander one another. Slander equals murder. Do not murder with your tongue someone's reputation. Do not mess up people's views of somebody.
Say that again.
Stop killing each other in these walls. The most common lie there is I'm okay. How are you doing? I'm all right. What's up? I'm good. Imagine, if we were able to follow all these one another's, this lie would not be necessary. We will actually have trust. Somebody come to me and say, how are you doing today? And I'm like, I trust you. I love you. I know you do the same to me. I need help. I'm not okay today. Can you pray for me? But no, we can't trust each other in these walls. We got to say I'm okay and move on. The minute I say I'm not okay, this is my problem, guess what? Somebody that's not inside the church already knows.
Mercy. Mercy.
So I don't blame these kids when they come in the AY, they can't talk. Because they know there's that resource, that support, that one another is not there.
Mercy, mercy.
We need to stop judging each other. You're not God. We need to teach and love and help with our struggles. But don't cast me to hell. It's not your job. We all need to go to Jesus. Acts 4 verse 12 says, "Nor is there salvation in any other, for there is no other name under heaven given among men by which we must be saved." There is no sin that Jesus Christ's blood doesn't have power to erase.
Amen.
Some people ask, does this Christianity thing really work? Does it really, really work? And I think the answer is simple, right? Simple. Does exercise really work?
Yes.
I mean, I'm trying to lose weight.
Me too.
All right, I was there, but I gained it back. But now I'm trying to lose the weight, so I know that I gotta find a babysitter for my kids and go meet my trainer. I can't sit down and expect to lose weight. Why do we all sit down here in the church and expect to be
Saved.
walk with Christ? If we don't do this, where are we going to be ending up? It's just like exercise. You got to do it for it to work. Like we said, we live in a decaying world. The world's going to end. This earth will be made new by fire. But in the meantime, we're here. Trials and tribulation we cannot get away from. But doing this will help us survive till the end. You're going to go through conflicts all your life. Some of us have seen conflicts that most people had grace in that face. But doing what the Bible says, one another's, and needing God will only get us through. Leaning on our godly brothers and sisters will help us navigate through this rough life.
Amen.
Surround yourself with people who will support you. Be one of those 4 men that saw their friend and wanted and sacrificed and broke down walls to get him to Jesus. Depression mutes. We need to pray and allow us to have the compassion towards somebody and say, this person is not doing good. How can I help you? Go to your closet, pray for that person. When a name comes in your head, look,
Mercy.
pray for them. There's a reason. I don't believe in coincidence. And next week you say, listen, sister, brother, you came to my head and I prayed for you. Keep it moving. You need to know, hey, what happened? None of your business. Pray. We worry about the details of someone's struggle. Just pray the struggle, man.
That's right. That's right.
You can tell someone about your struggles because God is so good that He will provide these 4 people to help you bring Him back to Him. Bring you back to Him. If you're on the stretcher like that man in Mark 2, for whatever reason it is, physical health, financial health, fearfulness, loneliness, emptiness, depression. You're feeling distant from God, and you tell yourself, I've tried everything. Let me tell you something. Nothing else will work. Nothing else will work. Because you and I were made to be in a relationship with God. You feel empty, you go do drugs. You feel empty, you go have sex. You feel empty, you go gossip on somebody. You feel empty, you kill someone. And you still feel empty. Guess what? That's not the answer. We're made specifically for His glory.
Amen.
To be in a relationship with Him.
Amen.
The Bible clearly says, all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God.
Ooh, amen.
I have fallen short. And that sin that drove my mommy and daddy, my first mom and dad, away and went hidden and isolate themselves and be hopeless and try not to be dependent on God is the same thing I struggle with. We try to run away from God in old fashion of our lives. And mental illness and depression and suicide is one of them.
Mercy.
Allow a godly friend and a mentor, wherever it may be, to help you bring you back to God. The Bible teaches us there's no temptation will overtake you that is too difficult for you to handle. But this doesn't mean that you need to handle it alone. As for deliverance, you can play for me, please. I'm about to close. Father, can you go down for me as well? You can close it. Or, there you go. In the church, a lot of us are like this. We're surrounded by people, but yet there's nobody around us. I'm going to ask for those who are like that man in the stretcher, who's looking for deliverance, who's looking for those 4 friends to be willing to break down the church's roof to get you to Jesus. Stand. We have a special prayer for you. We ask for people who want to be one of those 4 friends, who's willing to break the doors of the board leaders, the door of the pastor, the door of the deacon, the door of the elders, to break them down, to help someone. To please stand. Take a step forward toward Him. Let someone know that you're hurting. There are godly people in this wall that has the ability, that has grace upon them, that have love and compassion to help you through. Suicide is not the answer. You do not need to suffer alone and in silence. Trust God and reach out to Him. Just like the paralytic man, the first thing God did was forgive his sin. And the second thing is he had faith to actually listen and grab his stretcher and walk. And as we walk healed, as we walk forgiven, As we walk, repent, think of our sin, guess what? All eyes will be amazed and glorify God, glorify your God, saying, we never saw anything like this. Next one, please. It says here, this is literally, can you move the mouse? This is literally how many hands it takes to save a single life. It doesn't take just the pastor to help you. We need everybody together to help us, to help each other out. This is a crisis. This life is a crisis. The end of the world is coming. The crisis is at hand. We need each other. I want to read this, and then please, the Gabriel, if you can come up and pray over Mid Hudson. I want to read one thing. The hush of mental illness. Hush, says the families. We'd be embarrassed for others to know. Hush, says the ministers. Someone might feel uncomfortable, you know. Hush, says the deacons. We look after the physically ill, you know. Hush, says the church members. I don't want anyone to know about me or my relatives, you know. Hush, says the government leaders. There's not enough money to go around, you know. Hush, says society, because we really don't want to know, you know. Pray for the mentally ill, my Lord did say. I died for them too, you know. Love the mentally ill, my Lord did say. My grace is sufficient for the task, you know. Speak for the mentally ill, my Lord did say, for they are among the least of these, you know. God loves you, He loves you, and He died for you.